Death by noise.
Through dark veil of space, time.
Yes, I like it.
This is Warp Chatter!
Sweet mother of the abyss!
There's a great deal of work to do.
And welcome back to the Warp Chatter podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legion's digital card game, Warhammer 40,000 lore. This is a podcast by players, for players, dedicated to all that fun stuff. And I'm your host, Scuff D. We're on, I think this is actually, hang on, I have to confirm my math. This is either episode 39 or episode 40. This is episode 38. I'm actually 2 episodes ahead of myself. So I've been doing that for 38 episodes, and the intro is still sometimes confusing to me. So that is where we are at. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, this is a podcast by players, for players, talking about the game, but also talking about all the other stuff that the 40k lore and Horus Heresy lore encompasses. And obviously, we have with us players today. With me, as always, is my crab co-host, Axel Manning.
Yeah.
And joining us is Jormanrer from the Discord.
Hey, guys.
Hello. So
The best swordsman himself.
The episode that we've got planned for today, where we're currently at, the Galaxy in Flames Wave 2 has dropped. So we've got new cards for 6 more factions. And then a little bit before it dropped, just in the same way that they did with the White Scars, we got a little bit of an Iron Warriors patch. So we're going to be talking about both those things. I think we're going to be tackling the patch first before we talk about the new cards. And we will give our thoughts on both those, see how they kind of coincide, and then, maybe some speculation for Wave 3, because we know that's going to carry up the rest of the Astartes factions. But before we get all into that, Jormanrer, tell us about yourself.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm a relatively new player compared to most of the guests I think you have. So I've been playing for about 6 months now. I'm part of the Officio Assassinorum Lodge. I got into the game during lockdown. I'd seen it advertised on Steam beforehand, but it had very mixed reviews, and I kind of didn't download it at the time, just kind of shook it off. And then when lockdown happened, and I think we were all looking for things to do, I gave it another try, and turned out I absolutely loved it. It's been probably my main game for the last 6 months, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I was into Warhammer 40k as a kid. Never quite got to the organized stage of actually having my own army to fight with, but I had a collection of Marines and Eldar in various stages of painting. And I've always been a fan of the setting. I played a lot of games such as Dawn of War and the old Fire Warrior and such.
Fire Warrior, man,
Really came out here with the best and the worst.
That throws me back. There was a time when Fire Warrior was all we had, and it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I remember running through like the Chaos ships on Fire Warrior and thinking like, okay, this is pretty cool. But overall, as a game, yeah, it wasn't the greatest.
It was a pretty trash can fire at the time, but the trash can was still on fire.
Yeah, I remember when I was at a games day. It was like right before the game had launched, and you could play the demo for Fire Warrior, and it was basically just that first level. And playing through that first level, you're coming across Imperial Guard, and then there's chimeras like rolling over the trenches overhead, and you're like, man, this is so cool, and I'm a Tau, that's interesting. And you've got Tau, drop ships, flying overhead. It looks so cool. And then I got the game, and I played it, and then as I got further along in the game, I was like, it's 40k, but I feel like in no way, shape, or form should a Fire Warrior be able to do any of this stuff. Like, your first boss is like a Valkyrie. You're taking out Chaos Dreadnoughts by yourself. You're single-handedly taking out like multiple waves of Astartes and Chaos, Space Marines. It was fun, but yeah, it ended up being like one of those things where it's like, I would like to see this better. Like, why they didn't do Space Marine out the gate? I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely felt like you had the capabilities of a high-level Space Marine as a general Tau foot soldier.
Yeah, if you're doing something like that, you need a squad of fire warriors at least.
Yeah.
It would be the equivalent of releasing an Imperial Guard game where you just play a single dude who's not a Catachan fighter, obviously.
I remember once I got the railgun, I was like, that was easy mode from there out. I was like, okay, railgun, everything.
I love in lore how that's an easy mode as well, because it completely destroys an Astartes. You can't get the gene seed from an Astartes shot by that. It's just gone, kaput.
Just pulps it, vaporizes it.
Yep.
I would totally play a game where you played as just a random Imperial Guard. I just kept dying and respawning as another Imperial Guard, just trying to get through and win it in the favor of the Imperium. That sounds a lot of fun.
That would be cool. They should call it like 15 hours is like, take that and then just make it a book, like make it a game. But the whole point is like you have to get from point A to point B, and the goal is to see how many lives it takes.
I like that.
The dozens and dozens it will, but yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
You see some Astartes like dropping down in the distance. You're like, oh crap, this is gonna get real now.
and the deaths intensify. The the closer you get. It's like every screen, every second is like a new body dropping.
Yeah, that there's some interesting things they can do for games, which is why I'm very happy. 10 years after the fact, we got Space Marine 2. Announced.
Space Marine 2 announcement this weekend. That preview looks really cool.
I was gonna say, not only was it an announcement for some people, saying people have been hoping for, they did it in the best possible way. That trailer was great. It showed a little bit of gameplay at the end. Perfect.
Yes. I was just kind of curious. I don't know if there was some video game con or big weekend or whatever, but I noticed there was like previews for that. There was previews for Star Wars Eclipse, and there was a big difference between Star Wars Eclipse, which just looked like a movie preview, and I was like, what is this game? What kind of game is it? And then Space Marine is like, here's the movie, but then also here's some gameplay of you like just mowing down Tyranids. Like, that is good.
It was a perfect tease. Didn't show too much gameplay, so the expectations are going in low, but you showed enough where players go, this is a game. This is actually a game.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
There's nothing worse than you show the footage, but you don't even show any footage, so it's just concept. Oh, a game will come. Cool, but what is it? You don't want that as devs. Never.
Right. No. Especially with a property, that's got expectations.
And yeah, a property that has expectations and not a lot of good coming out of it lately, game-wise. So you got like an expectation to live up to.
Yep.
Well, I hope they continue on from the story point. I mean, it does look like they are keeping some continuity with the first one, obviously, but it looks like we're jumping since they're using the Ultramarines again.
It looks like we're jumping pretty fucking far in the future, because Titus has 400 years marked on his forehead.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's come a ways, which is interesting. And then to go with that, like what has happened to him since we last saw him? Because it wasn't the best circumstances with him departing.
Well, I believe from what I saw of the trailer breakdown, he's been demoted. I think.
I guess, right? Because he's a Primaris.
He went
but he's a lieutenant.
He went through the Rubicon. Yeah, he went through the Rubicon and got 400 years of service. So even if he got demoted, he's still doing real damn good for someone who got Inquisitioned. A little too good. Yeah. So I hope we pick up right afterwards.
It'll be curious to see. Yeah, I don't know. It was nice to see that we're still making new games, and getting some stuff out there, and whether you're playing it on a 40K game or a 30K game on mobile or on PC or a laptop, there are a lot of them out there. It was interesting what you said is you kind of had some of the models for different factions, but you never really had like a full-fledged army. Was there anything with that, or was it just kind of like just over time you just picked up what you liked to see?
Well, I think it was just being a kid and kind of having multiple interests in it. I was always gravitating more towards the Space Marines, but I'm also just a terrible painter. So it kind of always got to that stage, and I paint them and they just look awful. And then I think I started trying to collect like already painted from like people that I knew, just being like, oh, maybe I can skip this step. And I ended up with way more Elder, and it was just a hodgepodge at that stage.
Oh, okay.
Hey man, whatever works.
That's right. That's true. Whatever works. And if you ever want to, there are games that are smaller scale that, Kill Team or even some like the board game stuff that they've got currently that are, just like 4 or 5 models. just to have the model and have a game to go with it.
I don't know how old it is now, but Space Hulk was a good one for them. You got little tiny hallways and like 4 Terminators. That's all you needed. And then another player would bring his like dozen Gene Stealers. Not even.
Well, the Space Hulk box came with when they redid it. Yeah, when they redid it, came with Gene Stealers as well as the Blood Angel stories. That was a pretty nice box. That was pretty good.
Oh yeah. I almost forgot the company. Games Workshop does pretty good when it comes to the boxes.
Yes.
They tend to do pretty good by that.
Well, they did. I don't know how they're doing now with box games. Like maybe their box games are still good, but their boxes for army building is not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. That might be a whole different topic altogether to get into. And
on a related note, Horus Heresy Legions. It's a card game.
That's where we're at. So German, you said that German. I'll say it a little bit slower so people don't think I'm just like slurring words. You are newer to.
You guys can pronounce it however you like. It's fine.
I'll just call you Jor. That'll be easier.
That's fine with me, man.
There you go. So you're newer to the game. You started playing sometime last year?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say, roughly 6 months. I haven't really been keeping track exactly.
Okay, so some of these things, I know we were talking before we started to record, I think when we're talking about the balance patch and even the factions getting cards, that might be somewhat incomplete, experiences for you. So it'd be kind of interesting to hear your take as far as, what you were already aware of or what you weren't aware of, and how the patch as well as the new cards kind of, do they strike your fancy? So
yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Let's take a look at the Iron Warriors patch first. So we're gonna kind of go over that, probably talk about each of these things, and then kind of fall back on like what our overall take on the patch is. So first off, Forex as a warlord has his ability changed to for 2 energy. He sieges now, and then on his next turn he puts in play a bunker as opposed to putting in a barricade for 2 energy every turn. And then he also comes with a special card, which is the Breaker, and that is a 4 energy tactic that loads all units' siege abilities for 1 turn. It's a one-time use.
The ability, they may have killed him in that sense. That special card is very potent. Like people were looking, it's 4 energy. It's a bit much. You can actually build a board as Iron Warriors, even like 3 cards, like your warlord and then 2 troops. You can do a lot with that. I'm seeing people like drop names here, like GMAT was running some crazy stuff with it, if I recall correctly. A few other people, like, you can do stuff with it. It's a bit weird, but it works.
Yeah,
it's an interesting way of the extra card, at least, of giving them kind of like an OTK feel. If you can get to the late game with like a solid board of sieges, it does give you some interesting and cool options to do with them. As you say, that the ability change is feels
Did
bad.
It hurt? Yeah. I feel like at this point we may need to see a change to what's a useless legendary they have called Forge Breaker or something like that. Siege. What's it called? What?
Yeah,
Forge Breaker, the hammer.
Yeah.
It's so forgettable.
Yeah.
that I can't even remember its name. That says a lot. Okay.
Yeah. I played a couple games with Forex. His ability not so great. I mean, a bunker is a 1/5 as opposed to a 1/3, but it's not consistent to rely on. The Breaker is actually really nice if you're using it with at least 1 or 2 units who've got siege down. Like you play them on your turn, and then they survive. Instead of having to spend a turn to siege them and then play them, you just play that, and then you get whatever effect you want, whether that is. For me, it's the guy who pumps out the Olympian recruits, because right off the bat, boom, there's 2 more bodies on the board for free, and they're going to help me load my stuff every turn. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and it's
which reminds me. Oh, sorry, Scuff.
I was going to say, and those guys, they got patched too, but their ability is now load the siege unit of a friendly unit for 1 energy, so you could actually use that on your warlord too.
Perturabo can make some damage happen with that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Perturabos burst people several times in a turn, just keep shooting them because, well, they now work that way. It's good, in my opinion. Iron Warriors kind of fell off the public notice for a bit there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen much Iron Warriors played. I think they haven't really been on the ladder for quite a while. When I started, I remember Perturabo was kind of like their shining light, and then after the nerf, following the World Cup, or around the end of the World Cup, he he really just, the whole faction fell off. They just relied on him so much. So hopefully, this is enough to bring them back. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell. In conjunction with these card changes, as well as with the Galaxy in Flames is giving them, they've got some options. I think the big thing here we'll see is that they've got a little bit more consistency in terms of what they've got to assist siege, as well as what their sieges are doing. So we talked about Olympian recruits. Malbin Squad, which was at 5/3, now cost 5 energy, but now is a 5/5, and that's the one where its siege ability is 0, destroy an enemy troop, which is a very powerful siege. It was just the fact that it was always tied to a 3 health body, which never saw play.
Never. Now I actually see him often, because a 5/5 for 5, though that in that same spot you have things like Dominators significantly better, he actually fills a niche now. Before he was a joke that you drew from Olympia. I think he was in Olympia range. Was he? I don't think he was, actually. Olympia's 300. He was basically... Yeah. He never existed, actually. You got him from, like, Pharos, maybe. Or Jubok in, like, a bot deck. But now I actually see him being used. Because if you can load that siege ability with Forex, it's free to shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the ones that feels best with Forex's change.
Yeah, he's like a free hard removal answer, like right out the gate. If you can't get rid of him, you probably don't want to put troops on the board because they're not going to be safe.
You can't get rid of him, you're in for a world of hurt.
Yep.
Which, to be fair, is exactly what I want with a troop like that.
Well, that is what the Iron Warriors do. Promadon had its ability lowered in cost from 5 to 4, and now instead of a 6/4, it's a 4/4 with the siege of 1. It gains +3/+3. Now this is still a vehicle, so it is a. When you change this card, you're also changing the options for Draeger, which is always something to keep in mind.
At the same time, this was a troop you didn't see in any other deck. It's now Melgable, which hurts unless you play Logos, which we'll cover Logos in a little bit. I really like that change. It has its use. I haven't seen its siege activate often, but say you were to play it, pop Forex card, and then play it again, you just drop the 7/7 on Energy 5.
Yeah,
and it's frontline. That's good. It's a vehicle, so there's some counters like Melt-A-Bomb. You don't see Melt-A-Bomb in decks that aren't neutral. Let's be real here. I may be a little presumptuous by assuming that, but I feel like I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It has its niches. I do like that Promadon is no longer... Because I've said this before, Promadon, like Dominators, plays a better frontline than Promadon did. My reasoning being, you can't let Dominators stick to the board. It's essentially a pseudo frontline. It won't protect you from literal lethal, but it's definitely people are going to swing into it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
I feel like, I was just thinking, like, Promadon, like, I don't feel excited when I play that. I think it's just the siege mechanic in general. I've just never been that hot on. I think a lot of people aren't keen on it overall.
Siege ain't great.
Yeah,
Siege is you're paying double the energy listed to do something, and it's 3 turns after, like, it's 3 turns in total. You play the card, then 2 turns go by. It's not good. I just find that the new Promadon at least fills a particular niche.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just I with the extra cards they've got to enable it to happen quicker. It's not so bad, but
yeah,
it's still just so telegraphed that I just, especially with it being 4 attack, just
Yeah, a lot of flankers can take that out, on response in that 4 energy turn too. So.
Oh yeah, and even if they can't, you can Melgator it.
Mm-hmm.
Melgator is a killer of a lot of particularly unique builds and factions.
Yep. Well, especially
is
Siege.
That a good
Anything
thing?
with Siege is like, boom. All right. Good luck loading that Siege.
The question becomes, is that a good thing? I don't know. Not a big fan of Melgator's entire existence. He's a lot better than he used to be. But then again, the entire game is built around the idea that there is a Melgator.
Yeah.
So
yep.
all we can really do is go, yep, it's a thing that'll happen.
What did he used to do?
He's been through a lot of iterations, but his very first iteration was he could bounce anything. There was no limit, there was no cost, there was no troop type. Then they changed him to be able to just return infantry and Astartes. And then they changed
for the game.
Yeah, so then you saw a lot more vehicles and structures, and then when they added Custodes in, then they kind of changed him back to the bounce any troop, but it has to be attack under 4 or 4 less. So that's where we've got now, and that's where he's been for a long time. But when he was out, there was like there was no reason to play Slayer of Worlds. If you had Slayer of Worlds, I could Melgator it right back to your hand. 15-15, okay. You know?
Yeah.
There was the big troops just did not have sticking power unless you baited out a Melgator a turn before. And the game was not really rewarding if you were trying to play that slow. So, not that it is much now, but at least you know, like, hey, I've got 4 or 5 cards that are susceptible to Melgator, as opposed to everything I play could be bounced at any given time.
Yeah, that's too heartbreaking to have happen to you with the Slayer of Worlds or something.
Yeah.
I still got Slayer of Worlds or whatever, fucking inescapable Celd, which hurts even more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Scaramanca is got his ability changed to when you put in a vehicle with siege, load it, and then he also for 0 energy draws a vehicle, which this is a completely, I mean, he was kind of a vehicle based character before. Your vehicles were +1 attack, and then you could steal a vehicle. But this is kind of different altogether, which I don't mind when you put in play a vehicle with siege loaded. I don't know how I feel about not attacking with him just to draw a vehicle, although the Iron Warriors do have a bunch of vehicles.
I find his ability is just there for flavor. There's a few scenarios where we'll actually use it, like if you're really on the back foot and you just need some cards in your hand. Mm-hmm. But his new passive is significantly better than his old one.
Yeah. Yep. Especially that just offering one more way to, load siege abilities.
Mm-hmm. And think about the flanker vehicle they have. What is it? Sikarn something? A bunch of numbers? It comes in already loaded. I'm pretty sure its ability is 0 energy, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, it is 0 energy, destroy an enemy troop. So
yeah, it doesn't need a trade. It just shoots.
Yep.
That may not sound like a lot, but it is. Well, no, it does sound like a lot.
I can definitely see a desperation ability used trying to either grab a Sicaran or, depending on the board state, maybe a friend as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because if you can pull, it's essentially you have another Draeger. You know what I mean. Draeger may produce, but this draws. It also helps reward specific deck building. Yeah. So you can really load it with some heavier vehicles. Like, the only real vehicles in my deck are Sicaran. I'm going to guarantee draw it. And then if Sicaran's 8 energy, right? I'm not mistaken on this?
I think it's 9.
Is it 9? Okay, then you would need something to give energy if you were to use the ability then. But still, you could put it in your hand for later. Mm-hmm. There's uses for it, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Well, I like it. Rend is another change. You mentioned that. That's just overall better. Before it was just destroy an enemy troop at the front line, but now he also has the ability to stun another enemy if they don't have front line. So he's useful in every game. Yeah.
There may be some scenarios where you would rather the stun than the destroy, like against a Custodes player with a front line.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's so niche, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, very niche. I think it's nice that he's become less situational. That feels good.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He was good beforehand. Not going to say that card wasn't amazing. Well, amazing might be pushing it, but he was an auto-include in almost every Warrior deck. Now he's even more so, I guess. They made an auto-include more of an auto-include.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no reason not to have him in there.
You either have a stun and a body, which is very good in this type of game, or you have a stun and a hard removal, which is or not stun, sorry, you have a troop and a hard removal, which is even better. Mm-hmm. Overall, great change.
Yep. Land Raider 23-2 was changed to Siege, as opposed to having just the passive, all your stuff that you deploy is +1/+1. Now it's Siege. Give +2/+2 to all your troops in play and in hand.
I don't really like this one.
I agree. I feel like this is like a step backwards.
Yeah. I'll let you have your take, Yorman Rare, and then I'll go on a rant. Not really.
I mean, same. It felt like something that, it wasn't the greatest card beforehand, but at least once it was on the board, you were gaining the benefits from playing the troops. Now with the Siege, I mean, unless you have the setup already in place for it, it doesn't feel good. And when are you really going to be sieging with a 7/7? You're going to want to use that body for attacking anyway, so it just doesn't feel good.
It's better off hitting with than using its ability, which is why it had a passive originally.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I see this being used is if you could somehow give it flank, and you have the 5 energy legendary already on the board. The Tech Marine. We just talked about it.
Yeah, Scaramanca. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be a target, and, if you're not attacking for the 7 to use its siege ability, you make it even more of a target, like your opponent's not going to let that stand. It doesn't buff anything that's in your deck. It's just in your hand. So if your hand is very small, you just have a big Land Raider. So it really takes away a lot of its utility use that it had before, where it's like, okay, it's going to make strong things, and I can still attack with it.
If they wanted to give it something better, it would have to have frontline.
Yeah.
Even then, that may not be enough to actually use its
as ability,
siege, but it would help it.
Attrition Warfare. Now, this one's interesting because this used to just remove siege from a unit and just make their ability a regular ability. But now, this changes. It's loaded the siege ability of a friendly unit, draw a card, and on the surface that doesn't look great because it's 2 energy card, and a lot of the siege abilities are 0 or 1 energy.
Now,
there's only a couple there too. However,
people didn't read the word unit in that list.
That's correct.
They complained.
Friendly unit, so you can lock and load your Warlord ability and use it, and then load it again on repeat. And if you're talking Perturabo or Kroger, that could pump out a lot of damage, or at least prep you for the next turn, so you're not 2 units behind. I don't know. I don't feel like that's a bad change to this card.
Yeah, I honestly like it. For 6 energy, Kroger could shoot, get his act again, play Attrition Warfare, and then shoot again. That may not be the best scenario for it, but that's pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah,
or at least I think that's Kroger's wording.
Yeah, he's got May act again if he kills a troop. I think it's probably going to see more use for Perturabo than anything.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I've seen Perturabos pop out for fire, recharge it for next turn, or even go from unready to a quick 5 damage.
Yep.
That helps him. That stretches his lethal range a bit more. Well, not really lethal, but pressure range. And that's always good in a Warlord who needs it.
Yeah. Yep.
This is definitely one of the cards that the faction really benefits from with the change.
100%.
I think this is EG doing a very good job of like trying to enable the mechanic to work. I'm not sure if they've hit it across the board, but this particular card feels good.
Yep. Another one they changed, I think, was a change for the better, was Olympia, which before would just give you a handful of low-cost Astartes from the Iron Warriors faction. But now you choose an Iron Warriors Astartes, so you get a choice of 3, and then you put it in your hand, and it costs 2 less. And I see that being very useful. Anybody who's used Imperium Secundus or any choose 3 card, and then on top of that you have a cost reduction. This doesn't come from your deck. This is outside of your deck, so you could get 2 copies of what's his face, the big old. I'm drawing a blank now too on their 8 energy troop.
Gold?
Yes, gold. Yeah, you can get gold.
Oh, gold.
Yes,
yeah,
and
gold
bring him out for 6. Can you imagine?
That is a
that feels strong.
Yeah.
And gold, especially with how Olympian recruits have been changed, is very useful.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It's
They
just
stick,
like
you can just keep shooting as Pert.
just burst away. Logos is now, instead of attacking, or instead of the buff just applying to your vehicles, it's now to all Iron Warrior troops, which means it's not going to apply to vehicles and structures that are not Iron Warriors. But that's
there's a big issue with that.
Yeah.
Now, I like it. Do you know where Barricade is under?
Barricade is an Imperial troop, isn't it?
It's an Imperial troop. There are no Imperial troops in the game that produce Barricade.
Yeah.
The only thing that produces Barricade are Iron Warriors, which makes me wonder, why is it like that?
That's a good question.
Because, I mean, you could argue it's not Iron Warrior affiliated, it's just a wall. Cool. Why is Chaos Spawn a Word Bearer troop?
Yeah.
Like, there is no reasoning for Barricade to be an Iron Hand, an Imperial Army troop.
Yeah, no, I see the point. I mean, I guess maybe the Imperial Guard spend so much time cowering behind them.
I think the reasoning is simple. It's when the game first came out, and they probably had future plans for that one card.
That's possible. Yeah, they thought maybe there'll be more things that make barricades, or, barricade could be something that you get from Oratov's Barge, which surprisingly, it isn't. You can get, you can get bunker, but you can't get
I would much rather bunker than it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
But no, I'm going to get
no one's calling for that change.
Yeah.
I'm calling for the change of it to be added to the Iron Warrior pool, because there's no reason for it not to be there.
That makes sense, yeah.
It'd be like if they put Canis's arms in the Thousand Suns simply because they work off Psyker. I can see the correlation, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, not quite.
Which, by the way, Canis's arms still aren't in the fucking collection. I just
no,
to
you just see the head. That's it. And then Price of Victory had its cost lowered from 8 to 7, and doesn't change anything else to what it does. I really don't think that does anything crazy for that card.
To quote Def here, it now costs 7 Nurglings instead of 8.
So I mean,
I don't see it being used though.
That's the Iron Warriors patch. I'll be honest with you, this patch has got its ups and downs. The thing that really only excites me here is that the patch also came with 12 deck slots. That's my.
Oh, I knew you were going to be so happy when you saw that. Was that enough?
No, it's not.
Number.
It is not enough. We actually need 12 more, but they're halfway there. They're halfway there.
Living on a prayer?
That's it. Exactly. Oh. So overall takeaways from this patch, there was a couple changes that I liked. There was a lot more that I'm either impartial to or I feel like it's a step back. I wouldn't rate this high. I mean, did they change Iron Warriors? They changed Iron Warriors. People have been asking for an Iron Warriors patch.
They got
do
Iron
something
Warriors
for
off
Iron
the
Warriors.
template.
Do something for Siege. Do something for Forex. Well, they did it. It doesn't mean that it's good. They did it. Although I do think there is potential for some builds to really run wild. My question is, how many of these changes will help Iron people gravitate to play other Iron Warriors Warlords as opposed to just playing Perturabo? I don't know.
That is really what we gotta wait to find out. But we can't know yet. And I'm feeling it's
no, we're only like
ain't gonna do much.
3 days into it, and even with the Galaxy and Flames cards, which I think there's some more ones that like help with.
For those in the future, you're 8 days.
Yes, with loading siege units or some other siege abilities. Overall, nothing like screams to me like, oh, this is a potential new deck. You know, this is a new, like, I'll try Forex. I'll try to put some more stuff out there. There are a couple cards that I like with the new Galaxy and Flame stuff, but nothing's like, oh, this is exactly what they needed. So I don't know. I would rate this, honestly, I feel like this is a 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. I do see some things I like, but in the end, I don't see Iron Warriors helping from this. The new cards they got, on the other hand, did decent to help them.
Yeah, I mean, not including the new cards, which I'm sure we'll go over shortly. I'd have to say around the same, about 4, maybe 5 out of 10, being generous. Iron Warriors have never felt like a faction that I've wanted to play since I started the game. The crates that they come in are the only crates that I think I've never spent any of my in-game currency purchasing, partly because they're in it and I'm not a big fan of their mechanics, but this hasn't really done anything to sway me on that view. They could be fun to test out, but I'm definitely not going to be running to get them, and it doesn't feel as exciting a change as, say, when they did the Emperor's Children change recently, and everyone just went crazy for Fulgrim for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we just got to give this, maybe this may come out like staggered, like how they had to buff the Iron Hands like 15 times, so we'll have to wait.
I was thinking a bit like the Thousand Suns rather than the other changes they've made recently.
Yeah, we might see in January kind of a rollback to some of these cards and some slight tweaking here with what they've already changed, as well as some additional bonuses to kind of, like, I think if the Breaker costs 3 or a Forex's ability cost 1, or if you had, I don't know, like some of these, like if you had a troop that had Rally load your siege units as opposed to, you know, an activated ability. Like if Olympian Recruits was just Rally, load the siege unit of ability unit, you get a body, you load the siege. That might be too powerful, but at the same time, it's still just a 2/3 that you would have 2 in there, and it would kind of take the place of Attrition Warfare and give people an option who aren't Perturabo running all tactics. So I don't know. I think that there's some potential there, but time will tell.
The only real upside I see out of any of this was like the biggest was the legendary troops and Logos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm happy with that. People have been asking for Olympian Recruits to come out of Forex. I'm going to kindly say no. But no, that would be too much.
Too much. Yeah. I agree. So let's talk about the Galaxy and Flames cards. While we're on Iron Warriors, we'll start with the Iron Warriors faction.
As well.
So they obviously got Karger as their warlord, which we saw in the spoilers. He's got, you know, that 2 ability siege, and then when he activates it, he deals 2 damage to 2 random enemies. If any dies, he can act again. That can be a little pricey, just to fire it twice for 6 energy, but
he's essentially Mandragorax.
He's a delayed Mandro, and I've had a lot of fun with Mandragorax, and that can work really well. So if he's got the Iron Warrior support, in addition to an ability to help with some crowd control, I don't think that's a bad ability. And he has high initiative, which is really interesting, because that makes his siege activation even more effective early on dealing with some threats like Aztalan, or any of the defenders of Caliban, or anybody who's creating units or who wants to put a low cost troop on the board. He won't get the Iron Warriors counterattack, but he's also going to have other Iron Warriors cards.
Yeah, I mean, he seems all right. Like, I like the high initiative, and it definitely counteracts the siege. But I imagine you won't be using it much after that first one, unless you're using Attrition Warfare.
The initiative was nice, but I do want to point out that the Iron Warriors have one of the, if not the best counterattack in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to ask, is it worth it?
That's the trade-off. That is the trade-off. He could still get it in some matchups. So
100%.
Yeah.
I find it pretty niche.
Then they've got their mission, the Chosen of Olympia, which, you load a siege unit.
On the topic of niche.
Yes, 6 times, and then you get the reward, which is then the Hammer of Olympia. And then your Warlord gains Relentless, draw a troop, and lower its cost by 3.
I like that. I like that ability. Mind you, that's a good way to deck yourself out if you're not careful. Especially if you're running mainly siege, you're playing for the long game, so you may not want to use that ever. But same time, that's a lot. That's a lot you got to load. May not sound like a lot, only 6 times. You got to use Perturabo's ability. Theoretically, that's 12 energy. You just got to spend to get this down to playable.
Yeah,
and it's staggering.
I don't know how effective. I mean, it is a 0 cost mission, which is good because it lets you prep your ability the first turn at the very least. But
yeah,
I don't know, between the active being a draw troop, thinning your deck, which on top of that is like, okay, if you're playing siege abilities, like this isn't. You could play Troop Perturabo, but history's shown that that's not as effective. You could use it with Karger, and maybe that'll be a way to go, or you could definitely use it with Forex. Sure, but once you have drawn up all your troops and your board is full of barricades or barriers or Olympia recruits, you could overdraw yourself, and it's relentless, so you don't have a choice. It's going to happen every turn. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it.
It kind of feels like it's pieces of a puzzle that just don't really fit together at the moment.
Yeah.
I like that it's 0 cost. I like that it goes on unit and not on troops, but the reward, as you say, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword, and it's a little bit underwhelming. Doesn't really go with their play style.
It's not. Would need something. Oh shit! My mic just dropped. Give me a sec, gentlemen. I have a cat. He unplugs things. All right, should be a lot better now. Yeah. What it really should do is just load all siege abilities just instantly upon playing, and every time you put something in play, because then at least it synergizes with siege. Because right now it makes no sense.
Right.
That would make better sense.
Well, even if that wouldn't be that good in comparison, well, not really in comparison, but it wouldn't be that good in the end. It at least makes sense for what you're doing. For example, the Emperor's Children one, I may be jumping the gun here, is have your troops take damage in combat, and then when your troops take damage in combat, they gain a Mark of Chaos. White Scar is play Streak, and then when you play Streak, you gain an additional effect. This is, you siege, gain something that's not even related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's true. I hadn't really considered that, but yeah, it doesn't thematically, but the reward doesn't match up with the task.
Yeah, if your Warlord's ability was like, or your Warlord gains, or change your Warlord's ability to when you use a siege, I don't know, change, but maybe like your Warlord gains when a friendly unit uses a siege ability, load the siege unit. I don't know. There's potential there. That could be something that would work and help out siege more, especially if you're aiming to do siege. Although maybe that would be too much with Perturabo. That would just be every turn 5 damage. So I don't know.
With the missions overall, it does feel like they're coming in different types. There are the ones that I like, and I think generally the player base are thinking of as better missions, are the ones that you have complete control over. And I mean, this one is kind of in between, because obviously with it being unit, you can load your Warlord Siege. It's just going to take a while. But
sorry for interrupting here. I was going to say, on the note of just loading your gun, or your Warlord automatically from here on out, you still got to use like 6 sieges. So maybe if you were to up the amount, it could be more balanced, so Perturabo isn't just mag dumping you. But I feel like that would be better still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just doesn't, like, it's on the borderline where, like, technically you kind of have control because you're warlord. You don't have to keep troops on the board, but it's going to take forever. And yeah, it just doesn't feel like you're fully in control of it.
Demos Rhino has got, it's just a low-cost troop 2-3 vehicle that has a 0 siege, give +1/+2 to all your troops. It's a common. It's
an event fodder.
It's really what it feels like. It's not something I would use or build or even rely on.
I feel like if I draw a generic, I may play it, but like...
Yeah, just to put something out if you need to.
Yeah.
I do feel like
presence.
they're epic. They're Dodecathon adept. When you put and play a troop of siege loaded, that's got that passive, and that's very similar. Like, you can throw that down and then throw down some siege units, and then they're going to come in load. I think that is exactly what the faction needs, whether that is a troop in troop form or in warlord form or tactic. I think that's a very good addition.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this card.
Yeah.
I think it's a good addition to the faction. It shows EG are really trying hard to make the siege work, with all these little additions.
Yep.
I like to say desperately trying to make it work. No offense to you, EG, Mr. Everguild, but hard to make spend twice as much energy as listed to do something work properly.
Iron Rot Smash deals 1 damage to a unit, or for each of your friendly units, and then stuns an enemy. It's okay. I think it could have uses in some decks, and some obviously better damage in troop builds. But just being able to stun isn't bad. Stun and even just dealing 1 damage isn't a bad option in some circumstances.
I do like the art they used.
Yeah,
because that's the one where he's punching Fafnir Ron.
Yeah. Legion Medusa is another vehicle. It's another.
I forgot. I didn't even see this card till now, and I'm laughing just looking at it.
It's a 4-cost, 1 attack, 6 health vehicle. It's got a 0 siege that deals 7 damage to a structure, frontline troop, or 4 to any other unit. I mean, that's a great siege ability.
It needs to be a 4 attack.
Yeah, its siege ability is great, but its stats are terrible.
It needs to be a 4 attack. There's no reason to play this otherwise. Because a siege, you're at least attacking twice to activate it. Or, well, you're using it twice. So, in the end, you could deal 8 damage by attacking twice, or 7 to shoot a structure or front line, or just 4 in general. Its attack should be equal to that damage, the 4 damage.
Well, and this one here, I mean, this is completely susceptible to a single Vorax, and guess what? The Vorax stays on the table.
Yeah. And not even that, it's acceptable to just your warlord face bashing it with no, repercussion.
Yeah.
I take 1 damage. I don't care. This is a joke of a troop. Yeah. I'm actually sad to know of its existence.
It's pretty bad.
This doesn't feel like it's going to be added in any decks.
I think then the next cards we
not
get...
even in event
it's just a little bit sad when, you gain expansions with new cards adding onto existing factions, and then when they bring out cards that can't really be played, it's just a waste of slot.
Yeah, that at that point you want to see stuff that's, even if it's niche, is still an option. This isn't either, I don't think.
And the worst part about this is it's an Eric nerf. It dilutes his pool.
Yes. 100%.
Hadn't even considered that.
100%. You do not want to generate this. You'll be a sad Drager.
You'll actually be put behind if you generate this as Drager, which says a lot about this card.
Yep.
Now, let's move to some happier news, because I actually like this troop.
Yeah, the Cross Exterminators. Frontline 6/6 for 1. They siege and they heal completely, and then they gain Bloodthirst. That's a permanent Bloodthirst gain. So if these guys stick and stay, or you load them and then siege them, they basically are a 6/6 frontline that's going to be able to attack and heal 6 every turn, or just attack for 12.
I actually really dig these guys.
Yeah, I think they're really good. I think they're a good 6-drop option as opposed to Havoc Squad. I think Havoc Squad's still nice, but there really wasn't a whole lot of troops in that. You had the Predator, you had Havoc Squad, and you had Horrend. Now you've got something else.
And it's not only perfectly statted, 6/6 for 6. It comes with the front line, really good. And if you pop Forex for that siege, not only are you full healing, but you get an attack that turn.
Yep.
That's good. I like this guy. You may not see him often, because he might be a bit slow. His siege, at least. Not actually. He's a good body. He's not susceptible to any anti-vehicles. He's a frontline. I like him.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a solid card. No, I don't think anyone's raving about it, but it's nice. And I mean, siege always feels better on frontline.
Yep.
Oh yeah. More often than not, you're keeping a frontline alive, not hitting with it.
Exactly. Yep.
And then
My favorite, I like Siege Mastery, personally.
I do too.
Out of their wave.
So nice.
You get 2 barricades, and then your next troop costs 0.
But Scuff, you know what'd make this card feel better? If Barricade was in the Iron Warriors card pool.
That's true. Yeah.
You pop your logos.
And then they'd be a little bit stronger, 2/3 as opposed to the 1/3.
Yeah, that's true.
I just like the idea of popping out 2 barricades and a Latranthus.
Oh, yeah. You entrench the fucking mega tank.
And then you use Attrition Warfare to load it for 10 energy. I'm just saying.
That's nice.
That's a good 10 energy play. To be honest, that is a very good 10 energy play.
That's a scary 10 energy play because it's like, do you have hard removal for this vehicle?
Yeah, you better have hard removal.
Because if you haven't, then, I mean, and if we get to that point too, then maybe I'm playing Golg and Olympia, so, bait you out. I want to make that work, but I like the artwork for it. I like what it does. I think it's very cool because not only are you getting 2 barriers, then you can throw down a ideally high cost troop behind those barriers to really pump out something.
Yeah. This is a really cool card. I like it. I really think it's going to see a lot of play from people who do play.
I'm going to see a lot of Siege Mastery played.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit sad for Custodes players though, with this being just a rare.
Yeah.
Versus Benediction being 9 cost and
a legendary
less, to be honest.
Yeah.
It does legendary as well. And heal you by 5 though. It still has its niche. At the same time, you can compare Architect of the Heresy and the other card that there's a lot of parallels between every faction. I don't find this one ruining over the Custodes too bad.
No, it has its own I wouldn't say that. Just from looking at the 2 cards side by side, it's just Siege Master to me feels stronger.
Yeah. There's a saying was you can't really compare 2 factions card pools because there will be a break in it. We know someone who may or may not be a Salt Goblin who refuses to understand that rule. But it's hard to compare 2 factions side by side because they're built towards different end goals.
That's fair. I think for the Iron Warriors, this is a really nice ad. I think, considering that they were lacking in strength, this is definitely helping them a lot.
Yep. So moving to the Emperor's Children, because I think that's just the next traitor faction that's in line, is Marius Ferocian is a warlord. Another new warlord there, which has got he's basically the same ability that he had in events. 2 energy, deals 1 damage to a random enemy, stuns it.
Or if you were a Callidius Assassin, you've seen it before.
Yes, exactly. So that's not shocking. That's not a whole lot of news. I think that's cool to get a Noise Marine for a warlord. There was the Emperor's Children actually had a list of they had a pretty big pool of of event warlords to choose from. So I was kind of curious to see that we got this one over a couple of the others.
And I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty cool.
There's a lot.
Nice addition.
Yeah, there's a lot of you can do a lot of stun with the Emperor's Children already. So to add one more to that on a consistent basis, that's nice. The mission,
the artwork of the eyes is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I want to point out for the artwork of every mission has been on point so far.
I agree. I think I love the missions. I like the
really nice
profile. They're really cool. They're very. Each one has got that Legion specific look to it. It's very nice.
Yeah, they've done perfect in representing the Legions.
So Chosen of Slaanesh, we talked about that a little bit, with the friendliest stars receiving damage in combat 10 times, and then you get the ability that then, fueled by desire, every time one of your units gets damaged in combat, it gets a mark of chaos. Personally, I think this is not a great mission. I've seen it triggered, and it did nothing for them because it's like, okay, well, I killed it, and now it gains a mark of chaos after it died. Like, it doesn't do anything for them. It's achievable.
It would be better if Mark of Chaos activated right before the damage, so you could see something like Nurgle keeping it alive.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to like hoping that it doesn't kill you, and then Nurgle gives you an extra turn. Like, that's not as effective.
You're better off ignoring this card if you're an Emperor's Children player.
And I think that's okay, because the Emperor's Children, they've got a lot of stuff going for them already.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really need a mission. Like, they're already doing pretty well. I mean, I like that the payoff for the card is thematic, and obviously it looks awesome. But yeah, I don't see this being included much.
Mercutio is a 2-cost 2/2 vehicle, which is another low-cost vehicle. It's got flank with perfection. It gains sneak attack this turn. Not bad. I think that's.
I feel like the real update we got here is low-cost vehicles, because I'm pretty sure every faction, almost at least, got like a 2 energy vehicle.
It seems like that.
I'm thinking off my head, top of the heads, or at least a vehicle they've gotten that flanks. Now that I think about it, if there's a lot of low-cost vehicles and flanking vehicles, and that's the best way.
I feel like every faction got a flanker with this wave. So with Galaxy and Flames so far, it seems like every faction has got a flanker or a way to not just thwart flanking, but thwart any sort of aggressive options. And we can talk about that a little bit because this faction definitely got one of those. But I feel like that's what I would like.
Yeah, we need to cover that one.
Yeah, I feel like Siege Mastery and like the Iron Warriors, like they've got ways to throw up a lot of walls really fast. But we'll get to that. So, Unrestrained Cruelty is deal 1 damage 3 times. Perfection, heal 1 to your units. So that's 3 damage for 3, and you can heal 1 to your units. Not great, not bad. It's just another damage card for the faction. It's another tactic for Fulgrim to create.
Yeah, it's an alright card. Alright, about the in Fulgrim and Reckoning decks. I think it's going to see a place.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it deals 1 damage 3 times. Like the faction itself doesn't have
I know
any
exactly
sentencing.
why.
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
There is something in here that works off of that. I forgot. People were talking about it the other day. No, I guess Fueled by Desire doesn't even affect it.
No.
I can't.
No, yeah, because they have to be damaged in combat.
Yes.
Someone was talking about this on the
So not tactic damage. That
Discord.
won't work.
Yeah.
There must be a reasoning behind this. Every guild has, but I don't understand what it is.
We'll figure it out someday. Maybe there'll be some neutral sentence cards one day. Eyeliner Squad is a 4/4 for 4 battle honor. Give +1/+1 to all your Astartes troops. It's another Astartes, which
you won't see it often.
You're not going to see it often, but I mean, to be fair, the Emperor's Children, I mean, you could do an all vehicle Emperor's Children and not have a whole lot of Astartes. So for them to have at least a couple decent Astartes options isn't bad.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the art. Oh, the motorcycle has returned. Oh, it's gone now. And it's good art too. You won't see them often, but I do respect the fact it exists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Foul Experiments. Actually, you might like this. It's got Crabclaw on it in the art. It
I
enhances
know.
your Astartes troops, and Perfection enhances your other troops. So it's a way to, on Perfection, enhance all of your troops.
Yeah.
How do you feel about
working
this?
pretty good in Bile.
It's niche, but I feel like if you can play it on curve with like 2 Nassar scouts down as Bile, you can get really ahead. That's a very niche. I used the word niche several times now. They're a very specific scenario to have, but I feel like in that it really excels. It's not a card you'll see often, maybe even ever, but I do like it.
I like it. I think it's a good addition to the game in general. I think I'm happy when these new cards they're adding are adding in different types of playstyles or just different options in general. And this feels like, it's not going to see a ton of play, but it's cool. And thematically, it works for the Emperor's Children. It'd be cool to see in Fabius decks.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
One more way to enhance. You add just a couple different ways to do the same thing. You end up with synergy, and you end up with decks that can be fairly consistent. That's really what players want, is that kind of experience. Like, hey, I'm going to get rewarded. I'm going to do this thing, and you'll see the payoff as opposed to just like this one card does something for me. Speaking of one card that does something, the Cacophony Commander. Let's talk about that.
One thing
This guy
too.
is crazy.
This
I
is
don't know
Yeah.
if every guild plays the same card game as us. It seems like they tested this in Hearthstone. This doesn't fit in Legions.
It's
This is a lose if you don't have hard removal.
So I haven't actually been able to test this out myself much recently, so you guys might be able to answer this question for me. But the other and the or were interesting to me in the text here. So when you're attacking, obviously it chooses another unit. I'm assuming that's that you can't attack the Cacophony Commander.
attack Cacophony.
You can. It's all random. So
Yeah.
So if I aim at a different troop, I could hit him. But if I aim at him, I won't hit him.
That's correct.
I can. The other thing that I was interested in, because it says all other units in play, can my Warlord attack himself now?
He cannot attack himself, but he can slam into one of your big troops.
And your
That
big
makes
troop
sense.
can slam into your Warlord.
Yes.
Essentially, the way it works is you will not hit the target you aim for, and you will not hit yourself.
It's tricky. Like fast units, no. Flank units, no. It doesn't matter if they have frontline ward, stealth, precog. You can hit them. I have won some event games, and I have lost one event game specifically because of Cacophony Commander and not being able to deal with it. I've had ones where my opponent was Dark Angels in the event. He's got like 2 11-9s, and he went for the attack, and both of them hit his Warlord, and that was game. That was it. I had another one where I was up 28 health, and I just needed to do 5 damage to my enemy Warlord. And he had Cacophony Commander, and that's all he had. I had 5 units, and I had 3 fast troops in hand. And over that one turn, I killed all my own units, and I hit my own face, and I lost the game. And it's like, that's a wild swing. Obviously, there's ways to deal with him. You can bounce him with Melgator. You can, seek and destroy. You can hard removal. There's a lot of ways you can sabotage him. There's a lot of answers that exist in the game that most factions should have available to them and keep on hand if they're playing Emperor's Children. But it's big. Like, you can't just, like, the standard tried and true, I'll just flank him. Like, no, your flanker could hit your Warlord. Your flanker could hit my Warlord. Like, and then he's still around. Like, that's a possibility.
I don't know about you, Scuff, but I find this card extremely unhealthy for the game.
I don't like it. I think it's crazy. I think it's been really wacky, and it's interesting to see stuff like that play, but it is...
I think that's my exact problem. It's too crazy for Horus
It's too crazy, and it's the only thing that does that. And it's faction specific, and that's a problem in a faction that is already really strong. I feel like that.
The Emperor's Children really didn't need this card. I don't
think they did.
I also don't see it's thematically makes sense, because there's sometimes
in Alpha Legion maybe.
Yeah, Alpha Legion would work. Covert support actually does it better with the stunning when you put in play a troop.
Yeah, I feel like this should be whenever a troop attacks, stun it first. Just unless you're targeting it specifically, something like that. So you're trying to attack past it, it just stuns it. That could fit this card more. And maybe that's not the world we want either, but...
I do think it's a little bit funny that, like, previously on the podcast, you guys were talking about, wanting less RNG and letting the RNG get away from the player base and not, like, protesting, stuff like that. And then
here we
had Mr. Evergold on talking about RNG being a fundamental, and then this card just comes in as, like, a big stamp on it. Like,
that's right. Like, you thought there was no RNG? No. We're doubling down. This is the most RNG thing you can get. Like, we just need this on a Warlord now. We need a Warlord ability. God. When you play a tactic, the target is chosen at random.
Even yourself.
I mean...
Contradors himself.
It's bad. And like I said, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or after on the podcast, because I had forgot to ask as a follow-up question when Mr. Evergold had mentioned the RNG being the thing that they feel is a fundamental aspect of the game, and they really are going to continue with it. Which,
I'll give them that. Not. It is a fundamental part of the game.
It is.
We've had curious. That since day one.
I'm curious how much of that is also requested or kind of wanted by Games Workshop, because every game that Games Workshop has also is an RNG to some extent. You've got stats, but it's all dice rolling. It's always dice rolling. And you can have a 3+.
The actual board game.
Yes. Yeah, you can have a 3+ to hit, but you can still roll 9 1s, and too bad, so sad. If you played Blood Bowl, you can definitely attest to the RNG factor. All the Blood Bowl players out there. I mean, that's what they do. They thrive on that concept of anything can happen. You can have the biggest, toughest thing, but if he rolls 1s or your opponent rolls 6s, too bad, so sad. So I don't know if that was something when the game was first pitched and created that Games Workshop is, yes, keep that, or if it was like, hey, we just kind of came with this on our own and we have fun with it. And it's a great equalizer, because it is. The RNG factor will always be an equalizer, whether we like it or not, but it doesn't leave a good flavor in your mouth, especially when you have something as like clear cut where like there's no reason why like at least one unit wouldn't get through and hit a target. With Cacophony Commander, like, you don't know. There's the entire control.
The only thing,
and the biggest thing with that, I think, is that is just the opponent. It doesn't affect the Emperor's Children player.
It should affect, if it works this way, it should either affect everyone, or better, an even simpler solution is the first troop that attacks this turn.
Yeah,
or first unit.
I was just about to suggest the same thing. Yeah, that would be, for me, like the logical leveling down of this to see if it works in that iteration.
Because all your Warlord then has to do is face slam. You may eat some heavy damage, but then your flanker is going to take it out. And you're still making the enemy Warlord pay for it.
Can you bypass frontline with this as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. And stealth, and ward and precog and all that stuff, yeah.
More reasons why this card is not healthy.
Yes.
It's a crazy card.
Phoenix Guard. Frontline.
Why are they
8-10.
only added now is my question, Phoenix Guard.
It feels like a late addition. They've got a Battle Honor Heal 3, but aside from like a desperate defense build or some like Saul that's trying to ramp up curve, this just feels like a high cost card that we're never gonna really. I mean, why would you play Phoenix Guard when you can play Sardarian?
It's a cool card, like just looking at it. And for other factions, I could maybe see play, but in the Emperor's Children, I just don't see it.
I'm happy we finally see that faction getting some loving.
Yeah. I think it's really
or not faction. Sorry, that
unit.
Unit.
Yeah.
The more factions that have their bodyguards is better. By the way, the Word Bearers technically still lack theirs because they don't have a Terminator unit. So I was told we were getting Terminators. I want to see them. Don't know what they're going to do for them because there's actually nothing they could. The only in-lore mention of Terminator units in the Word Bearers ever have just been like offhand, and it was a dude in Terminator armor. They have no designated Terminator unit, so we really a crapshoot at who we get.
That's you never know. You don't know if you'll see it or not. You'll probably see it, but it won't be something you'll want to play.
I started reading into the actual book series last year, so I'm still fairly.
For legal reasons, I don't have this. But if you need all the books legally, I don't have this. Legally.
Oh, excellent. I may not hit you up later. Who knows?
All right. Yeah, of course. We wouldn't want to get in any trouble here, legally.
Moving on to the next Traitor Legion, the Thousand Sons. Get also their new warlord. They get Sanict, who is an awesome warlord.
Oh man, can we talk about what Everguild almost did before Sanict came out, real quick?
Sure.
His original ability was until your next turn gain this buff. Which,
so with orders from
anyone
Terra,
knows what Khorne's favor.
Yep.
And
this would have been crazy.
The kicker to me was when it was proposed to Everguild in email, they went, "We don't see the current problem. Could you send us a deck example that shows this problem?" And entire communities went, Bloodthirst exists as a neutral.
Yeah.
Luckily it was changed.
Yeah,
luckily was it changed.
Just for one lethal strike, but it's still really good. I mean, whether you're using it for offensive purposes to clear units or just to win the game, I like the options that he can bring. And overall, we'll talk about all these cards for the Thousand Sons, but overall, I really like what they've gotten. So, their mission, Chosen of Tzeentch, which generate 15 psychic energy with your troops, and you get the Unleashed Mind, which ties into Psyker. Love the artwork.
The artwork's beautiful.
Yeah.
The that generate counts for rally effects.
That's correct.
Anything that like ability usage. It just has to come from a troop.
It has to come from a troop.
That's nice. That feels good.
It's fairly easy to get. I won't say easy. I mean, it's consistent to get if you have troops that are doing it. If you're playing with Psyker troops, which for the most part, with the way that they've been redesigned, you really kind of should.
This really shows the original vision of a redesign, because we note on what Mr. Everguild said, their idea for missions was less popular play styles.
Mm-hmm.
They've made psychic abilities a less popular play style.
Yeah.
Which not exactly the biggest fan of that original change, but I do like what they've done here.
Yep.
With this mission card.
And then Unleashed Mind gives you the reward. Your warlord gets Psyker 3, as well as Relentless, create a psychic power in your hand. So you will always have psychic options. You may not have all the necessary warp juice to use them, but that's really powerful. That's really, really cool mission reward. Overall, I like that.
Yeah, it's cool card.
Call the Tutelary. This is a psychic power. I was curious if we were going to get more psychic powers, and we did. This one gives Psyker 2 and +1/+1 to a friendly Astartes. This is interesting. This has been very useful in events. I'm not quite sure yet how it will fare in open play, but just giving extra Psyker to Astartes as well as giving them +1/+1. This single card here can be useful just to make like a Hidden Ones immune to Melgator. And then on top of that, they're going to create even more Psyker on your turn. So I like the option for this card.
I dig this card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice include.
Let's see here. We got the Echoes of the Past, which is a 3 energy tactic that lets you choose a tactic you play this game and put in your hand. This feels nice if you're playing a deck that doesn't necessarily need Book of Magnus. But you want to replay your Octo or your counterattack or something of that nature. That's not a bad, or even a second Crucial Choice. I feel like that's not a bad addition.
I like the synergy between this card and, say, Amon or Ahriman or Hidden One, just for being able to use things from the opponent's deck multiple times, which could be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. I like this card.
Yeah, the artwork is solid too. This is
this
is artwork from Crimson King when Ahriman goes to, I forget the name of the place that he goes where he finds the demon that's encased in this orb that is supposed to help unite Magnus's shards, and also ends up kind of being responsible for creating the rubric of Ahriman. So just a nice little nod there.
Yeah,
That's
good
really
art.
nice artwork.
Important plot point.
Yep.
Nice. I like it.
Now speaking of
It's
troops,
a really good card.
speaking of troops that generate Psyker energy, Legionary Tulik.
This is a good card in my
Yeah,
opinion.
rally deals when damage
like
if the
it.
target dies. You get 2 Psyker. It's a 3/3
You know
body.
what this is, stuff? This is a replacement of Las Rifle, or
Mhm.
whatever the 3/3 version is called.
Absolutely.
This is 100% its intention. Yeah, it's a replacement of the 3/3 with the rally for 1 damage, and I find that really good. I like the route of moving towards neutral, better neutrals in faction card pools.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think this is a
Like
nice card, and I like that idea.
Neutrals should always cover a part that's missing in a faction. That's why they should exist.
Yep.
So to have something that's just a bit like Informant Network and I can't remember the Blood Angel equivalent, even though I've played a lot of Blood Angels lately.
Oh,
I feel
Prophecy
sad.
Revealed.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That is a perfect example of what I'm saying. It's just Informant Network. That's all it is. Except you actually want to play it to clear out just some 1/1s on
You
board
can have
occasionally.
some card draw, yeah. Amzu Squad has got Psyker 2. It's a 3/4 Astartes that, for 2 energy, puts in play a Psychic Barrier, so more ways to put in play Psychic Barrier. I like the potential of this. Just having more ways to put in play a barrier is never a bad thing, especially in a faction that doesn't want to get hit a whole heck of a lot until they've established their board. I like it. I think it's a nice card.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Any of your warlords can now be Takar.
And
Yeah.
then Hakoris Veterans. This is a great 6 cost. To be fair, I mean, Airman's Cabal is also a great 6 cost, but this is probably up there, tied for it. Psyker 1, but Resolution created psychic power in your hand, which the more ways you have to create Psyker cards, the less Psyker cards you need to have in your deck, which gives you more room to put in troops and tactics that will help support it. I think that's a really, really solid troop.
I'm a big fan of it.
Yep. Not a huge fan of Sorcerer Het at 7 cost.
Yeah. You know what he is? He is a card we just lost from the events not long ago. Yeah, better death stats.
Oh, that's true. Well,
But
that was board wide. This is just to a random enemy.
Oh, you're right. I originally read it as board wide. I have no reason to ever not hit with an ability.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you just attack for
Not
6?
not hit
Yeah.
with face. Originally, I read this as board wide, which I actually could see a use for. I can't find one for this.
No.
No, this card doesn't feel good. I mean, the only way you could possibly be helpful is if it was, end game. You had a ton stored up and you just were nuking down the warlord. But there's other ways of doing that in the faction already.
Some advice, Everguild. If you ever have to look at a card and do mental gymnastics to find a way to use it, it means the card's bad.
Yeah.
It's I actually have to sit here and think for 5 minutes on a way I could use this card, ability wise. It's not good.
I wouldn't use the ability ever. I can
That's
tell
what
you.
No, it just doesn't help.
That's what I'm saying. The only time I'd use it is if the warlord was just close enough, but he had a front line, and I'm doing that 50-50 odds. No, that's too much effort I got to put in to even think of a way to use this.
Yep. Now, the counterpart to Thousand Suns, obviously, is the Space Wolves. They come in the faction here. We get Hemtel Squad, which is a nice 2/2 with drop pod.
Oh, he's so good.
After his troop attacks, create another Hemtel Squad in your hand. I really enjoy this troop.
Really?
Yeah.
This is if Lehman gets it in his starting hand, and you don't also have a Seek and Destroy, he's moving ahead.
Yeah.
I do want to note we skipped the mission.
Well, we did skip the mission. That's true. We can talk about it. Let's do that. because you gotta attack a troop. You gotta attack with a friendly troop 10 times, and then you get the Howl of the Wolf King, which then your warlord gets pack. Your troops get +1/+1. I've been playing around with the mission because I was able to get that, and I've got it off a couple times. It's not hard to get off.
I find it to win more.
But it is a win more. It's either a win more, and if you put too much energy and effort into it, and you're not winning, then it doesn't do anything for you.
So it becomes a lose more.
It's nice. It's a cool idea, but I don't think it's necessary.
I really like the artwork.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The artwork's great.
But yeah, again, it just feels like a win more most of the time.
It is nice, like if you have like 3, hunter squads and they're all like attacking, and I watch them all get strong. But at that point, my opponent half the time they didn't even stick around to let me finish. I was like, oh come on, you're never going to see this happen again. You get the mission. But no,
with a faction that's so focused on in ladder play anyway on their Primarch, it would have been nice to see the mission kind of help out the other warlords more, enable them a little bit, but it feels like it's kind of still geared towards Russ with this.
Yeah, I feel like we need to see an actual change for Bolvi and Grieger to make some
Grieger
options for that, because they're not in a great place, even with the additional cards. The Hemtel Squad is really cool because if he attacks a 0-cost or a drop pod or something, you still get a copy of him back too, so you won't run out of troops. That's one thing that the Space Wolves have sometimes, is if they run out of options, they run out of steam. So having a way to just have one extra body, one extra card to play every turn is not bad. I like that. What else we got here? We've got we're going high up in that. We got the Punitive Strike for 4 energy, which puts in play more Colbert Hunters.
Did we cover Ira Fenris?
Did we?
Yeah, Ira, right?
Did I miss that? Oh, Ira Fenris. Yeah, 2 damage if target dies. Draw a troop from your deck. That's not bad.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's 2 damage to 2 energy. It's flat value, and if you kill something, Space Wolves already lack, Lehman in particular, of having troops in hand. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it works into the kind of fast pace you're pushing for with Lehman, and it feels good to draw the troops.
Yeah. I feel like there's not even much to say about that card. It's just good.
Just good. I feel like Punitive Strike is not bad either.
Yeah, it's just good. You get 2 flankers that are 2/3s. People go, oh, but Vorax. Here's the thing about Vorax. He hits a 3 attack or more, he dies instantly. You don't get the Bloodthirst off.
Mm-hmm.
With this, you're at least going to get your 2 hits.
Yeah, you get 2 hits, maybe more, depending on if they stick around, or at least your opponent's got to answer to them. But it's 4 for 2 attacks, 6 damage, as opposed to 3 or 5. Yeah. Sergeant Karger is another flanker for 4 energy. Flank. The pack is kind of heal 1, but just having a lower cost flanker as opposed to the higher cost 6-cost card, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Scarred. It's alright. It's nothing amazing, but
it's not mind blowing. But
you could be pretty happy if you can bring him out, take something off the board, and he survives, and then attack with with your warlord and another troop, and he's back up to full health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you've got Bloodhouse Veterans. That's a 6/6 with ward. When a friendly troop dies, gain Bloodthirst until end of turn.
I don't know if you'll see that actually activate often, but the ward helps him.
Yeah, the ward helps
ward
a lot.
he'd use.
At this point, if you're going to have an ability like that on the higher cost Space Wolf stuff, I feel like they should have ward. It still can be flanked.
Or a way to gain ward.
Yeah, it still can be responded to, but it's a cool potential.
It's a cool concept, which is always good in this card game. We need to evolve a bit. A non-cool concept is something like Cacophony, in case you were curious, people at home. But I like this card. Yeah,
I like this card a lot. I think I just enjoy the ward style playstyle with the Space Wolves. You don't see it too much, other than obviously with Russ being the only one who really makes it into the ladder. But I think this card has some potential, and it's just a nice theme with the Bloodthirst. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then capping off the faction is the 9-cost Dreadnought Grimir. It's got frontline and it has ward. I haven't used this yet, but I want to.
But he would help if the faction was slower. The problem is they're as far from slow as you can possibly get, who's not named Karn. And even then, a Lehman with lucky draws ends the game faster than Karn. He ends it at 4 energy. So I don't see this being played often because it's just not the Space Wolf style. Maybe if future updates move their style to a slower play, or at least benefited slow play, so like a not a Gregor, but a Bolvi or a Other could actually succeed, that'd be nice.
It's an interesting card. Like, I like the big body with the ward and the front line. Like, it's cool. Like, it creates a problem for your opponent. But as you say, it just at the moment it just doesn't feel like it has a proper place in the faction.
I like any reason to add more dreadnoughts to the game. I joked about attaching Melta Bombs to Cassian to annoy our good friend Dorn, but I do think we need more dreadnoughts. They're such prominent characters, and they're not getting enough love.
Moving to the Emperor's Children's side, or not the Emperor's Children, the Ultramarines. We've got the Sons of Ultramar, which actually feels like one of the easiest missions to get. Put and play to Astartes 8 times, then you get the Master of Hosts, which then that is going to give you Resolution Put and Play a Censored Squad, which is that 3/4 Battle Honor, create a practical in your hand. That's just a great reward. It doesn't feel like it's very hard at all to put and play 8 Astartes, especially in a faction that has a lot of low-cost Astartes. I want to play this. I wish I had this mission to play.
Oh, it's so good when it activates, because I've seen it non-stop just work.
Every turn.
Just from like an overall viewpoint of the changes to the faction, I might be jumping ahead here, but like I really like what they've done with the Ultramarine additions, and this card, like the mission, ties it all together really nicely.
Yep.
I find it a little too nicely. Like, if the idea was to make the faction like reward for playing a different playstyle, this is the opposite.
Yeah.
Well,
it's also a bit like, it's very good. You're getting a 3/4 every turn for free. You're not doing nothing for it.
I feel like, the old Ultramarine playstyle was more focused on getting to the late game, getting out your like very powerful late game units, and obviously you had mid game value units as well. But
I mean,
really the
this
big
isn't
finishes,
any different. That's a lot of Astartes. You're still making it to the end game, but now you're confirming your end game. It's more of the same.
Yeah, I could just see more of a kind of Astartes swarm playstyle, like trying to overwhelm with like smaller bodies and like mantle and buffs to the Astartes in your deck. Like they have those tools now that you could see different types of decks like that coming through.
I see that, but I also just don't see that happen. You would have to purposely play this card differently, because if you just play the card as it's intended, it's just a free mission, 100%. It's like it would be like the Thousand Sun one, but instead you built it completely around by simply Astartes that just gave it on like a start of every turn instead of with their rallies and such. Yeah, you could play it completely different, but that's obviously not the intention, which is why I see this card as very good. That's the issue. Oh well. I don't think it's not that crazy. I think it may be changed. Maybe more troops, because 8's not a lot. 8's not a lot at all.
It does feel very easy to get.
Yeah, especially when you've got something like Syrian Squad that puts in play another Syrian Squad. For 2 energy, you get like 2 of those out the bat.
Honors, and we got to that one. Then Honor the Fallen, the next one. You can just get another Astartes.
Get another one, and it costs 2 less. And then you've got the other one, which is was it Savior of Calth?
Draw 2 Astartes and give them
Survivor 1. Yeah.
You're just putting more Astartes in your hand. And they'll change to Legendary to make them on Rally. You put more Astartes in your hand. Like, you don't have to try to get this mission. You actually have to try not to get this mission.
Yeah,
to be honest.
There's a lot more Astartes in there. They have vehicles, but there's a lot more Astartes than vehicles. And you've got Lycimus Cestus, who is frontline. Rally, he gives +1/+1 to adjacent troops, which is another Astartes. So if you draw him with Savior of Calth, then you've got a frontline with Survivor 1. You've got also the 6 cost, the Veteran Ceronius. When you put in play in Astartes, give it +1/+1. I think the one thing here that we've got, and then you've got the high cost Praetorian Prime, which is a vehicle rally 2 damage, and then Courage, it also gets flank, which is nice for an 8/7.
Very nice.
The faction itself, they've got a lot of high cost, like 5 and up Astartes, and then you have Ultramar, Mental Ultramar to make them all stronger. But if you play on the lower side of things, like Marius Gage running like the 3 and 4 cost that he can, buff up with +1/+1, and then use Mantle, and then not have to rely heavily on double Captain Lysander's, double Marcellus, and instead roll with the 4s or the 3s, and then you're pumping out censored squads every turn. That has merit too. I don't know. I wish I had this mission to give it a try, because I really want to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets used. But it does feel very easy at the moment.
Yeah, you definitely need to Everguild, you at home, definitely need to up the cost of this thing. At least, if not change the ability to, I want to say relentless, but I don't think that would just make them worse. Just up its costs. 8 is too easy. You can't simultaneously add that and then add something like Unrestrained Squad. I feel like that's my closing statement on Ultramarines, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, closing out the Galaxy in Flames expansion is the Dark Angels. And they've got no new warlords just yet, but they do have a second mission. They have Scions of the First, which is you choose a wing. When you put in play troops from that wing 6 times, then you get the Lion's, the Lion's Collar, which then your warlord gains relentless, give +1/+1 to troops in your hand. I've gotten that off a couple times. I got the mission from a pack, and I was lucky to build the deck with it. I've gotten it off a couple times, and that's pretty fun.
Now, I like this card, just on paper, not even usefulness. It rewards deck building to a certain wing. Like, I'm going to hyper-focus Dread Wing to get off the ability. I'm hyper-focus Raven Wing, you know what I mean? Like, thematically, it makes sense. Not really thematically, but like, from a deck building perspective, it makes sense. That's the word I was looking for.
It's nice to have a card that rewards you for focusing on a specific wing while you already have like something like Hexagrammaton that rewards you for, focusing across the board and being more generalized.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The trick is finding a good wing to mix it, because some of them I've found so far, like Raven Wing, is cheap and easy, but some of them really are better if you have some Dreadwing to go in your deck, so then you kind of have to dilute your pool a little bit.
Which I want to also mention, we did get 1 Astartes from each wing in this update. That was smart by them. They didn't. They was straight across the board. Well, Astartes, 1 troop from each wing.
Yeah. We got Forward Deployment, which I really like this card. Choose a wing, create 2 troops from that wing in your hand. This is a really nice way to replenish your hand. And if you're looking for your mission, you get 2 more troops to go into it. You could double up on some epic troops. You get some more Astrovels. You could get another Deathwing Companions. It's got a lot of potential. You could also low roll and not get what you want, or get big old clunky vehicles. But it's something.
You might.
It combos nicely with the mission.
Well, I say might, but yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the Space Wolves card. I can't remember the name of it right now. The one that brings in 3 Space Wolves under a certain cost.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
And it doesn't quite fit with their faction because you're always trying to move fast with the Space Wolves, but for the Dark Angels, yes.
Yeah, you're talking about the nice Spirit. Yeah. For the Dreadwing, they got their Sergeant Bellion, which I like the artwork here.
The artwork's really good, but I have an issue with him. He's just their legendary.
Yeah.
But with lower stats.
He's a legendary lower stats, and you can get 2 of them, so it feels a little redundant, and which, I mean, we're talking about, the factions that have something to do the same thing and building the same thing. That's one thing. But when you're trading out high-cost troops to deal damage to Rally, that's a pretty powerful effect. And if you're given a faction the ability to do that 3, potentially more times if they choose Dreadwing with forward deployment, that's a little crazy.
The only thing different he has from Romuald, besides stats and cost, of course, is that he's a different wing.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Paladin of Glory gives +2/+0 and Survivor 2 to a friendly unit. You don't like it?
Doesn't need to exist. The reason why is simple. You'll never see it played on a troop. The one time you'll see it played on the Warlord is Corswain. Already has that, but better, as a special card. It's so niche where you can look at it at as a buff, it's temporary as well. If it was permanent, I see that being used. But it would have to be troop. Maybe,
yeah, I mean, I could see it being used as a finisher when Corswain's low, like maybe in conjunction with KF, since you can get both of them out in the same turn. But it's not going to go in barely any decks.
At that point, you just use a special card in the same scenario.
Yeah.
That's why the way I see this is event fodder at best. This is the type of card that should be give +2 and Survivor 2 to a friendly troop, or to your friendly unit, to your warlord until next turn. It should either work permanently on a troop or temporarily on a warlord. There's no reason for temporary for both. That's a lot of words, though, to put on a card, and we both know that Everguild, well, all 3 of us know, Everguild doesn't really do that. That was their excuse for the longest reason of not buffing Guilliman.
They do have a limit, I think, to the words on a card. I think The most I've seen is M-Shen, which I think is around like 24-ish, because I was looking into this when Scuff was doing his competition for card creation.
It depends on, are you counting like small words too, like A and the?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't counting characters, I was just counting the number of words.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, M-Shin almost goes off the page, so.
Yeah, M-Shin's loaded.
Yeah. Proctor Ineus is a Deathwing. He's the Deathwing there. It's got Quest, gives +2/+2 to random trip in your hand. So he's like the Deathwing version of Decor. So
yeah, I'm looking at a lot of this faction update. I'm not really like Lion's Boy's got the short end of the stick.
Angel was one kind of feels the least impactful.
Well, my problem with it is most of it's just the same old, same old.
Yeah.
It didn't do much.
Considering they said they wanted to, encourage different playstyles in it. Other than, I guess, the mission encouraging.
Well, I feel like
single wing.
This is supposed to benefit like prioritizing a wing, but at the same time, I'm looking at this entire card pool and I'm like, cool. This is more of what we already had. We didn't need more of.
Yeah.
Paladin of Glory, Corswain's card again. Sergeant Bellion, the legendary again. Proctor, the 2/3 again. Karn, I guess, is different. And Archon of Steel, similar to their other Dreadnought, but I guess a little different.
Yeah, Sakaran Protector is a Raven Wing that flanks, and then for 2 energy can deal 2 damage to all enemies. That's not bad. Archon of Steel.
8 energy for a wipe. Not bad.
Archon of Steel is basically a Peligore vehicle.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't buff what's in your deck, it just buffs what's in your hand. Overall,
would you see yourself playing either of those, like in your deck?
Would I see myself playing any of these new cards, except maybe Forward Deployment and Sergeant? No.
Well, I've been playing the Sicarian. Sicarian works really well if I'm doing a Raven Wing deck.
Yeah.
If I'm mixing things, I still go with Onyx Saber over Sicarian.
That's what I was thinking. Like if you're going solo Raven Wing, yeah. But if you're
Sicarian didn't have his flank, he would actually be useless.
Yeah.
So at least they give him that.
I don't know, like overall for the 6 factions, who would you say is the winner, and who would you say comes in at the bottom of the barrel as far as the new cards to the faction?
If we exclude Cacophony's very existence, got to give it the Thousand Suns. They came out really, really good with this.
I like the Thousand Sun changes. I think they're really good. I mean, this might just be me, but I really like the Space Wolves ones. I'm looking forward to messing around with them.
I like the Space Wolves one too. I think they're pretty good.
I'd say those two, in my mind, are probably the biggest winners.
But then if I got to give it to the biggest loser, that's easy. That's Dark Angels. Dark Angels, they got more of the same. You could see them better. Like, more Romuls are always good, but at the same time...
You know what would have been exciting for Dark Angels, and this is a bit off topic, but if they... Like, having Forbidden Secrets and a mission, like, Forbidden Secrets barely sees play anyway. It would have been nice if they just converted Forbidden Secrets into a mission and released a new legendary.
I agree.
Or even buff the mission.
Yeah.
Or just gave it more, like, change its cost. Right now, here's why Forbidden Secret will not be played. Easy to activate. You're spending 1 energy to play it, 3 energy to play the thing, and then 3 energy again.
It's not.
In the end,
it's very clunky, which is a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dark Angels can kind of be. I think Thousand Suns are my winner as well overall.
Yeah.
Space Wolves are up there. I don't mind the Dark Angel stuff. I think honestly, for me, the weakest faction coming out is the Iron Warriors. I feel like there's just a lot of meh to no thanks.
Oh, I agree. Now, my reason, I'll go for my reasoning for choosing Dark Angels. It's because of the logic of this. They're trying to help new play styles. They're trying to add new cards to lighten it up. So all these factions got cards they've never seen before. And then it comes to Dark Angels turns where they just change the stats of pre-existing cards and put them again. Like, to me, the only unique card in that entire list is Sakaran Punisher.
Yeah.
Because no other card in their group does that.
Yeah, it's a lot of copy and change the wing and stats.
Yeah, and that, in my opinion, is the worst possible way to do the update. So I'm looking at that like Iron Warriors may have got the short end of the stick, but at least their stick was a different stick. You didn't just spin the stick around.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just very heated about like the idea of uniqueness in a card game.
No, I mean I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. I think the Dark Angels ones feel the most, or the least impactful. It does feel like it's kind of a copy and paste job, honestly, which is a little bit disappointing for the first update to the faction since they've been released. It's a little bit disappointing, but they nailed a couple of the other ones, like we've said already.
Yeah.
With the exception of Cacophony, which is just An
Yeah,
abomination.
That needs
Absolute
a nerf.
abomination.
And once it gets a nerf, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think we might be having a discussion in January if we're lucky to see a patch to that, because I think the outcry is there. I think it's huge.
I think it's justified as well.
Yeah,
completely. Its art is nice. Its ability is too much.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So with I want to ask, with the Thousand Suns, like we've agreed that they're one of the big beneficiaries of this, and we like pretty much all the cards that they've gained.
100% of the cards in my
They had what, like they had the rechain,
no.
they had the change, and then they had like a small buff to try and bring their power levels up a bit.
Mhm.
They've kind of been hovering on the edges of the ladder. How do you think this is going to affect them on the ladder itself?
I feel like Chosen of Tzeentch will cover a lot of their weak spots.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
Psyker?
I think if you throw that in there, you don't have to play even the mission. I think.
Oh.
I mean, it's nice if you do, because especially if you're going for like a old school Magnus, like the long build Warp Portal Izzet Ore.
Think about how much Magnus is going to like that in his Reckoning form.
Absolutely. I think Sanict could very well be the thing. I don't know if Amon or Aramon are going to get crazier than they've been. Amon is like the bottom rung, unfortunately.
I'm really excited for them because of Echoes of the Past.
I think
Amon, I don't think he's good, but like at least with Echoes, it could be funny at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just needs a change.
You play him for the memes. Aramon's got potential. I think these cards add a lot for both Magnus, Phosis, and Sanict, the new Warlord. I'd like to see him.
I think my favorite part of all these cards is compared to normal Thousand Suns or the past Thousand Suns, all these cards are properly statted.
Yeah. This feels like nothing comes out like left field where it's like, man, this is like, honestly, if we've looked at all the stuff from Wave 2, Cacophony.
The only thing crazy is Cacophony.
I mean, do we even have anything in Wave 1 that was like crazy bonkers?
Game breaking? No. Muster? But
that's maybe.
Oh, yeah, Muster.
Yeah.
But even then,
I mean,
it's answerable, or it's not like, hey,
it's
like
fairly easy to answerable. Answerable, yep. It's fairly easy to answer.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would disagree with it being easy to answer.
It can be answered.
Well,
it's not easy. But
you don't need that many cards. Like, you could do it with traditional flankers and damage tactics. Cacophony requires several damage tactics or a hard removal.
You could do it with a Kumbai bike and a scout. What are you talking about? Come on.
And praying. And prayer.
Anyways.
Even then, not if they only have that troop on the board. You're only going to hit the Warlord or yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I mean that's the Wave 2. That's the Iron Warriors patch. We kind of covered the topics of the hour, but when we're not talking about the topics, Jor, what is it that you do when you're not playing Legions?
Good question. I mean, until recently, I was living in Colombia during the pandemic. Recently moved back home to see the family. Luckily, the lockdown restrictions loosened for a while, and I managed to pop over and see a friend in the States, and then head back to the UK. So I'm excited to be back for Christmas. I think after that, I'm going to figure out what comes next. When I'm not playing Legions in spare time, like recently, I know this game's been out for a little while, and I'm late to the party, but I just got into Deep Rock Galactic, and by God, it's a great game.
Oh yeah, I know quite a lot of people who play it. It's a good game. What I've seen, I just haven't played it.
Oh, you should give it a try. Really fun. I've been really into that the last couple of weeks. But yeah, no, I mean, I think at the moment just waiting to see what's going on with the international travel and such for the new year to see what the next plan's going to be.
All right. Well, glad you made it back home in time for the holidays and safely. And I know especially in the last year and a half, sometimes that could be up in the air altogether. So it's good that hasn't worked out against you.
Yeah, pretty fortunate in that regard.
All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to plug?
No, nothing really. I'd like to give a shout out to my lodge, obviously, Officio Assassinorum. Just say thanks to those guys for making the game a lot more fun for me. And I'd also like to give a little shout out to the first lodge I joined, the Emperor's Sons, who taught me a lot about the game when I was a brand new player.
All right.
I had a nice lodge when I first started. Mine told me not to use Dark Martyr. Yeah, I left that lodge after that moment.
Officio Assassinorum took second in Lodge Wars, correct?
We did, yeah. That was a we had a good run. It was a very fun tournament. We enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, we a little bit unlucky in the finals, but I mean, Masterclass played very well from all the games that I saw. So
Yeah,
it was a great tournament.
They came out with all the heavy hitters for that as well, Masterclass.
Oh yeah, they made like an all-star team, so it was pretty cool to be going up against them.
That's the fun of Lodge Wars. You know, you put this one especially because it wasn't just 3 players. You know, it wasn't just three. It was like you could get the whole lodge.
Yeah, I just pulled up the list of Masterclass's team here. They had Spellbreaker, Lastman, Doles, Rexcolt, Orthanol, Vapix, Ruber's Moon, Lorifax, and Pirate. Yeah, they really brought out the big guns.
Yeah, I mean, based on the rules,
everyone brought out the big
and
guns.
at the end of the day, you can only play 3 players in the final. So
right,
yeah,
and
everyone brought out their big guns, and it was a beautiful tournament.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think just thematically for the future tournaments, it would be cool if you. And I know with Masterclass it gets a little bit tricky with the definitions of like what their like lodge is, because they seem to view themselves as a 200, which I'm cool with. But I think that if, say, one of their lodges is competing in the tournament, I think that the player should generally be locked to that lodge to compete, just for future rules. But it's not a big issue. Like, I don't see a problem with it. Like, we had fun in the final versus them, and they were very friendly. And
I never used to thought about it. Is Officio Assassinorum part of a family of lodges, or is it a singular lodge?
It's a singular lodge. Basically, we have kind of like an extra lodge attached to us. That's kind of like retirement lodge for people who don't want to take the event seriously and just want to chill in the game. We had one player from them who was part of our team, which is why it was a mixed team.
Yeah, I know I know Seekers has several lodges in it. How many lodges are in Trader's End? Scuff, is it like 6?
It was
7?
6. It is now 8 because the Orphans of War and Ordo Kronos have joined us. So we now.
Oh, really?
8. Yeah. Yeah.
What happened to Ordo Sinister? Did they attach them?
They were almost all inactive. There was like 3 people who were still playing, so they just kind of moved over to our lodges. And I mean, the lodge still exists somewhere out there, but it's not.
The members are gone.
The members are elsewhere. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so you guys, you did a merge. I used to be part of the Ordos family. I was fine with it at the time.
Yeah, they're pretty low key, pretty casual. I think really Parrot and Talos and Gorefinger are probably the 3 most like communicative. I know Dornosmy and like a lot of the guys are on VK in Ordo in Orphans of War. I guess there are a lot of Russian players, so I don't really talk with them a whole lot. But,
Eric wanted me to specify this. I called him Russian several times during one of the episodes. He is not Russian. He is Eastern European, though. Sorry, Eric.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. Well, how about you, Axel? What you been up to?
I'm still doing that DMing thing. It's pretty fun. The party, I had a great moment. I don't know if I talked about it last, where the party finally started putting the pieces together for the plot, where they picked up on every thread I've put down and kind of connected it. And they got a rough idea what's happening. It's not exactly right, but it's enough where it's, you guys have inferred based on what I told you. Because originally they were kind of walking around, no idea what was happening. They're actually using common sense now, which is good. That's happy.
That's good to see.
I've only ever been kind of a stand-in DM, but I assume that's quite a rewarding moment for you when they finally put it together.
Yeah, it's it felt good. Mind you, the party is in a pretty bad scenario now. They're launching a siege on a town to kill a vampire, and they're all level 6s, and the minimum CR of a vampire is 14. They really shouldn't be doing this. We're going to see what happens. They have a plan, though. They didn't tell me it,
right?
But they have a plan.
They have a plan. Our plan is to run away.
I can't wait to hear what this plan is. Please update us on a future podcast.
One of them is an Azamir with wings, who has mentioned several times, I could just fly away right now if this goes bad. I'm just going to leave.
I don't know if you can do that with vampires.
No, really, you can't, but he'll learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to this. He won't know that. And then besides that, the day that Space Marine 2 got announced, I found myself a PS5 that didn't cost more than market value. So you know what? I'll be able to play it.
Nice.
Because my PC, it's old. I can play Dawn of War on it. That's about it. So I don't have to upgrade anything. I'm happy.
All right. Well, is there anything you would like to plug?
I'll do the usual. Our boy Dorn, the man who hates the term Erebus, and hates the fact I will attach a Meltabomb to Cassian. He made my beautiful little profile picture. That's Doran Stash and Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. Those are 2 different accounts. One is 40k themed and one isn't. You can probably guess which.
Just as a final shout out for something I overlooked, I'd like to just say thanks to all the tournament organizers for organizing Lodge Wars and also just the weekly tournaments.
I agree. Except
if you're a new player,
love you.
if you're a new player and you're looking to build your collection and just have some fun, joining the tournaments is a great way of expanding your card collection and also meeting other players and just having a laugh whenever you've got some time. So check it out.
Yeah, and as we talked when we were talking about the Q&A, the prizing for the tournaments is based on attendance now, so it actually gets better the more people play. So if you're curious, give it a roll. It's actually easier than you think. Sometimes people see the names that are playing, they see the same people playing. The same people are playing because they want to get prizes. They're playing consistently, and they know that it's a simply good time. I think part of it also is scheduling. There is some schedule availability depending on those days, but overall,
I do want to note something. A lot of people go the route of, of course I won't win. It's always the same people playing. You ever been to a game shop, an actual tournament for a card game?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Usually the same people. It's usually the same people, because they're the ones who like to do that.
Yeah,
you don't have to be good. I'm not great at the game, and even third place in attorney's gold.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, if you can get yourself in a good lodge, like in Officio Assassinorum, like whenever there's tournaments that come up that have like interesting rule sets, we'll sit down or have a couple of us go online and just mess around with different decks and have some fun, and that's part of the experience. And then you don't have to be like a master of the game. Like I managed to win a tournament when I was a relatively new player, thanks to like just a lucky rule set and me having cards that would work for that set.
Exactly, that's how I got Sanguinius.
Yeah, it's a fun experience too, because then you win and you're like, I can do it, and then it's encouraging to try it again. And I think sometimes people just get intimidated before they actually sit down to play, and it really isn't that complicated. It's just have fun.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I'm going to plug our 12 deck slots that we got and the 12 deck slots that we still need, because we will need them. But that's really all I've got going on here. I know what we're going to be getting up to next week. When I say next week, this will air on, what day was it? It's going to air on. This will air before the 18th, so we're going to record the weekend of the 18th. That weekend is a very busy weekend. I'm doing a Steam stream on Steam, so if you're listening to this now, and on the 19th of December, I will be on Steam streaming, and I've got 3 promo codes to give away for gold. So I've still got to fine-tune my challenge rules, but basically I've just open challenge, and the first 3 people to beat me within the challenge rules using, I think I'm going to have it specifically like using factions from Galaxy and Flames and using new warlords, or maybe just new warlords. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, but then like if I lose to 1 Sons of Horus, then you got to try something else. Sons of Horus is off the table, and we'll go that route, and then that way I can give away 3 promo codes for 1,000 gold. So I've got that scheduled on the 19th. The 18th is Bar Night Legions, so that's always an open, fun, talking about tournaments. That's one's a casual tournament for anybody who just wants to play casually. It's a B-tier format, so no warlords that have shown up on the meta report. We just kind of vox and play games and have fun. And then that's it. And we might take the week of Christmas off, so there might be a week of no episodes. I'm not sure yet on what that looks like.
That Christmas falls upon the average recording day, so
yeah, so that's
that
why.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's why I was like, like it just is more hard to complicate than you got Christmas Eve, and then some people aren't available, so we might be off that week. And then if we do, we will resume the following week. So, Axel and I, we might just do like a quick little 30-minute Chaos Carols episode where we're just singing Chaos Carols. I've got them written. I have them written, Axel.
Oh, God.
I don't care what you sound like singing. We're going to do it. It's going to happen.
I'm going to get hammered.
That's how you do
the promise.
It. That's the step 1. So
that'd be awful.
That is it. That's all I've got. Jor, thanks for joining us tonight, making the time, or today, depending on what time it is and where you're at. Appreciate it. It's been good having you on. Always nice talking to new players. And I think I want to make a list here as far as like before the end of the year, like count down like how many players, how many different countries of origin we've talked with, because we've had a good first year. We're not done yet, but should be interesting to kind of see where they all fall from, and just nice to have you amongst them.
Yeah, again, thanks for just having me on. It's been a blast.
All right. Well, that's it for me. Bye.
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 The sunlight dims.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Eternal loyalty!
Burn it! Burn it all! Well executed.